This is as groovy as it gets.
Oprah, Can You Hear Me? Oprah vs. Donald 2020 is a conversation by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro and a production of EI Alliance, copyright 2019. America is courtesy of New Threads off their new album, Felonious Wilma.
Hi, this is Julie, and I'm here with Susan, and this is another installment of an Oprah, Can You Hear Me podcast. First of all, there have been some inquiries about the music we use. Just want to say that is courtesy of New Threads, a great band out of Tennessee with local roots here in Boston. And the song America, which they have a great YouTube video about, is very interesting and a bit political, so it goes really well with this podcast. And this podcast name is I'm Oprah. The reason why will be clear in just a minute or two. So we did a podcast on the energy of names, and that's under our Let's Talk About Energy, Ours and Yours series that we have for podcasts. And I want to regroup a little because David E. Kelly wrote for this series called Boston Legal. And it was a great show with Boston lawyers, and it was set in Boston, and everybody loved it. And there was a character played by William Shatner, who's a great versatile actor. He's also a sci-fi author. And the character was Denny Crane. And when things would occur, and there was a whole storyline with his character and some of the other lawyers, but anyone who hasn't seen Boston Legal,
which includes me, because I've never seen it.
Well, you gotta watch it. It's a fun show.
I've never seen it, so.
And they have a lot of video from Boston. Anyway, when anything would occur, he was a lawyer, and he would go to trial, and things got, as the years went on, there were questionable things about his mind and blah, blah, blah. But he was a very powerful lawyer, and he had won many cases. And so what he would do is when somebody would say something to him or he was in a case, the power of, his power as a character was he would say, Denny Crane. Denny Crane. And there's one little segment of him walking into a party, and he doesn't know anybody, but he would just walk and go, Denny Crane. Denny Crane. And, without seeing it, you don't understand, but there's a reputation that goes with that name. There was a reputation of his prowess of a lawyer and the cases that he tried. So I know that was a story, but anyway, it made me think about also the Seinfeld episode where everyone remembers the Jimmy, where the guy referred to himself in the third person. Remember, Jimmy's not happy today. Yeah. Also in the Seinfeld episode, there were a couple of times when I think Jerry said something to Kramer about, how can that happen? And he's like, I'm Kramer. And people understand what that means because of the reputation of that character. And that's where I'm Oprah comes into play. So, we talked about the Trump book that we wrote. It says, it gives you an energy idea, because we discussed not the politics, but the energy of his campaign and what he was doing, not knowing him. And, how he was branding himself. And it wasn't hard to see. And in line with these Oprah podcasts, we've been talking about how the work is already done for Oprah, where Trump has kind of changed the whole face of what the presidency is and how to become president. And so in that line of, the expression of your name as a character, of who you are, of leading forward with your reputation, I think Donald Trump does a little of that as well. He doesn't walk around like Denny Crane and say, Donald Trump. Well, yeah, I'm not sure. Who knows? Maybe he does. So, the funny thing about it is, I started to think after our other podcasts how President Trump hasn't released his taxes. He never, restricted himself and transferred his funds. He recreated what the presidency means and how to kind of make a run for the presidency. And so a lot of things that all the other presidents had, religiously done that were rules, he kind of threw them out the window. And from that standpoint, he kind of set a new playing field for Oprah to run as Oprah. And so from that standpoint I started to think, well, still President Trump hasn't released his taxes. And I love his comment that he says, well, who's interested in that now? Nobody's interested in that. I mean, he's president. And I bet, millions of his supporters would agree. What are they interested in that now for? which is funny that he can
Well, now
say
they're
that.
interested in the wall.
Right, they're interested
The
in
government
the wall.
shutdown. There's bigger, really, fish to fry.
Right. So he had a comeback
Right.
when there are these kind of questions. He had a comeback about what to say, and I started thinking, well, if Oprah had any concern about anything related to what was previously considered, how you could become president, what about the presidency, how would you deal with something, she really could just say, "I'm Oprah." Really, this could be the "I'm Oprah" campaign. So from that standpoint, her name runs with her reputation. It's already branded. And in our other podcasts, between the Oprah Ultimatum and other things that we have said, sometimes we're just being funny from that standpoint, but we're also looking at the energy. Really, a perfect answer is, "I'm Oprah."
Can she step into that, though?
I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. I think that's an interesting concept. I think we always say that a lot of the stuff that we say in these podcasts for Oprah, we are also really saying it for ourselves.
Right.
A lot of the stuff we talk about, we need to hear ourselves. We had that conversation before.
And it's funny because as I was thinking about this, I was thinking about, we did do some recordings for our blue book, Energetic Invocations, a book of vibrational change, and there's a part in there where I either remembered you saying, or when we were writing it, he said, "I'm Susan Barbaro, and I can only be the best Susan Barbaro." That it was kind of funny because, I don't say I'm Julie Benetti, and I can be, but why not?
Well, I think the power in that is, it's not a look at me. I don't know if it's the same as Denny. Would it Denny Crane? Okay,
Yeah.
so
Denny Crane.
when I say it, it's funny because Susan Barbaro. Even when I got married, and I'd say to people, then I got divorced, and I said, "Oh, I went back to Susan Barbaro." One of the things is, you've always been Susan Barbaro to me, and it's not full of myself. It's more of what we said in the book is, I'm just me. I can only be me. Right. I'm not out to be Oprah. I'm not out to be anyone else but me, because that's all that I can be. And the minute I think that you embrace that, and I think this is what you're saying with Oprah, once you embrace fully who I am, nothing else, that is the answer to everything.
And not only that, I realized there was an extra strength to it because she's so branded. If anybody asks her about anything, even foreign policy, if you're up there and you're in the middle of a debate, can we see it? A debate, with her and Donald Trump. I mean, it's not cliche to just say, "I'm Oprah." I mean, that'll get a standing ovation. And she can say it. Right. And there's no reason,
That's brilliant.
as a model.
You know what, Julie? That's a brilliant concept.
So we're coining right here the "I'm Oprah" campaign. If you agree, start hashtagging "I'm Oprah 2020, right?
There you go.
There's a campaign for you. I mean, it's funny because, we've all lived through the different debates and different politics at different points in our lives. And, you remember Nixon getting up there, and you remember, what the debates were there, and you remember, Dukakis, and you remember Kennedy, JFK getting up there, and you remember what occurs. And
I'm not that old, so I don't remember them as well as I would remember Clinton and Bush, so Reagan.
And a lot of
You're older than me, so
yeah, a little bit, not that much, but a lot of them still are black and white videos too. You can see them on YouTube, and the funny thing about it is that the testament is, if we know we have people listening to our podcast, we have, am I going to pull a Trump here? We have, thousands, hundreds of thousands, a huge amount of listeners, right? Huge amount of listeners from all over the world.
Exactly.
Why? Because they see Oprah? Because they see, they know it's a podcast by Julie Benetti and Susan Barbaro? That's a possibility, okay? Because I'm Julie Benetti. You're Susan. It doesn't work with a "your." You have to say I'm
Susan Barbaro. No, I think it's a acknowledgement of yourself. And I know Oprah also made mention that she didn't, she wasn't sure if she could, live up to the whole truth and,
And
I
you know
know
what?
they slugged back and forth and mudslinging. She wasn't, but if you are who you are, none of that matters.
Right, and it's funny because from that standpoint, once you turn it around and say, but you're Oprah.
Right.
I mean, it works the other way. We turn around and say, you're Oprah.
Right.
I mean, if she starts walking around saying, I'm Oprah, I mean, you can go back and watch the Boston Legals because they were kind of funny, but
Yeah.
William Shatner does a great job, and just in the presence of just saying a name, you actually go along with the branding. You feel it. And okay, we know Donald Trump has done it. He still does it, right? And you got to think, he's really hankering for a good opponent. He's looking for that rival.
And
He's
let's just
chomping
say
at the
that
bit.
at this point, that rival hasn't stepped into the ring that we've seen. Anyone that could keep up with him. Certainly not, some of the others who have stepped into the ring.
Because you have to think, he must be tired of all that's going on and all that's, and it's probably not that much fun.
No.
I mean, not that, I know it's important and things that are going on are important, but political factions, are difficult, dangerous, and often, how much fun could it be? And to get, it's like a golf game, to get a good kind of competitive
Yeah, you want to go with someone who's going to make you step up your own game.
And so from the standpoint, I mean, and it's funny, it's because, once again, what is it, Occam's razor, the simplest solution? Go with the simplest. It's usually the simplest solution. So you want to answer any debate question? You want to answer any worldly issues?
How
What
can
would
you do this?
Exactly.
How can you do that?
I'm Oprah. Right.
She already
I'm
has. She's already dealt with international leaders. She already has. On a very social... So go ahead.
And no. I'm listening to what you say, and also thinking, from that standpoint of when you do say, even if you have a career or you have something, you do say I'm, and it gives you a sense of grander self-confidence when you go to that core.
Someone just said to me the other day, "There's power in numbers." The strength in numbers, that's what she said. And what's interesting about that is you can look at it from one standpoint or you can look at it from the other standpoint. The strength in numbers and power in numbers, and the numbers are within you.
And it could also be
you.
Right, and it could also be the number of times you remind yourself that I'm Oprah. And the funny part about that, because it can kind of have a little domino in a good way, what do you call it, a chain effect occurrence of people saying, but wait, how can she do this? She's Oprah.
Well, because
But wait, how can she do that? I know.
Trump already
Which
does
is
it.
funny. And how would you do it? Not better than him, but for yourself, is to say it yourself, about yourself.
Right. So let's see if she does.
And on that note, we can say we coined it here, the I'm Oprah campaign. She's Oprah.
She's Oprah.
Thank you for listening to this production from EI Alliance. Check out our Amazon authors pages for books and podcasts, along with our Donald Trump and Oprah books for this series. Find great music by New Threads on iTunes, Spotify, and on newthreads.us.